Yo, what up? This is just gonna be a quick MSV guide talking about each and every boss, going over the glyphs and talents you should be playing for every boss. MSV is a raid where you might have different stuff going on depending on your raid and what you're assigned to do, but this will be a pretty overarching guide. I'll try to mention everything, and if I don't mention everything, of course, feel free to ask in the comments and say, oh, I have to do this, what should I do here? And yeah, let's get into it. We can begin by talking about the general glyphs, or the glyphs and talents you'll be running on most bosses. We have two glyphs that are usually always picked, and these are Bull Rush and Unending Rage. These two generally provide the most value and should therefore always be picked. Glyph of Bull Rush combined with Juggernaut allows you to charge every 12 seconds and generate an additional 15 rage every 12 seconds. Which is incredibly powerful. There's nothing. This should always be picked. There's no scenario where this wouldn't be picked. Glyph of Unending Rage increases your maximum rage by 20, which is also extremely powerful in scenarios where you go into Berserker stance and get additional rage from damage taken. The third glyph slot is a bit more subjective, and it changes a lot depending on the fight. So you may end up running Glyph of Death from above in fights where it's just pure single target and you don't really care about any AoE. You might run Glyph of Sweeping Strikes when you do have AoE, but you would prioritize running Root Interruption on fights where you can interrupt instead of Sweeping Strikes. And you might even run a Sweeping Strikes instead of Unending Rage and also run Root Interruption. So it really depends on the fight and for you to understand when you should run what, so you can actually make a good and educated decision. A glyph I forgot to mention is Glyph of Resonating Power. This glyph is very niche, but it's extremely powerful on fights where you have a set amount of targets. So for example, Stone Guards, where you have 4 adds up the entire fight, and there's no other adds coming in. Where this glyph can see some really bad downsides is on fights where you have adds coming in consistently, and you want to apply Thunderclap often to make sure Deep Wounds is up on all the targets. But if you don't have to worry about Deep Wounds missing on any targets, this glyph is extremely powerful and makes Thunderclap an extremely rage efficient spell to press. This is the general talents you should be running on most bosses. The only thing I would ever change on any boss is I would swap over Bladestorm to Dragon Roar, and you're gonna be swapping this on 2 bosses. Bladestorm, however, has some real good value. And that's if you play the spell correctly. And that is if you're Bladestorming on single target when you have Battle Shout up. Because you can, for example, you can press Bladestorm, then you can Battle Shout in your Bladestorm, and when your GCD comes up, you can cancel or your Bladestorm. This essentially makes Bladestorm also give you 20 rage whenever you cast it. And if you time that whenever Mortal Strike is on cooldown, Colossal Smash is on cooldown, and you're low in rage, this makes it an extremely powerful spell on single targets. And honestly makes it on par with Dragon Roar. This is, however, very niche, and it's hard to get those out, and Dragon Roar is just an ability that you press once, and it does the damage. So, Dragon Roar is usually safer to pick, but Bladestorm is very good still on fights where you need it for AoE, but you don't need to press it for AoE in the upcoming minutes. Alright, first boss of the raid. Stone Guards. This fight, you want to run a Glyph of Resonating Power, Glyph of Sweeping Strikes, and Glyph of Bull Rush. You don't run Unending Rage here because you end up getting more rage output from the Sweeping Strikes glyph, and Resonating Power is too powerful not to pick. The main points you want to think about on this fight is you want to make sure you keep Deep Wounds up on all the targets at all time. That is the most important thing, and it's going to contribute the most damage. The second highest thing is pressing Thunderclap on cooldown, and that will obviously ensure the first criteria is met, that you keep Deep Wounds on all the targets. The third thing is you want to pair your Bladestorm with all your damage amps. On this fight currently, on Warcraft logs, the tiles that give you a damage amp don't actually count. So you don't really have to worry that much about making sure that you send all your cooldowns and you offset your trinket for when the damage amp is the highest. So whenever all your trinkets are proc'd, whenever you have all your damage cooldowns, send your Bladestorm and send all your shit. And yeah, let's get into the fight. Another thing I'm not really going to talk about that much, but I'm going to assume that you do, is that you're swapping into Berserker stance whenever you're taking damage, and you just play Battle stance whenever you're not taking damage. A lot of people ask me, oh, what stance should I play on this fight? What stance should I play on this fight? And there's no right answer. It all depends on if you're taking damage or not. When you're taking damage, you should be in Berserker stance, and if you're not taking damage, you should play in Battle stance. I think that saying, oh, just play one way on one fight is just lazy gameplay, and you should definitely just not do that. There's just no point. Just don't be lazy. Would be optimal for if you play for logs. But if you, for example, care about outputting the most raid DPS, sending your Bladestorm here when you have 77 stacks or 70% damage amp is way better. So it's a bit of a balance. What do you want to do? What does your raid want to do? What are you assigned to do? I mean, yeah. Another thing to think about on this fight is rage is very, very, very hard to manage on AoE fights. And this fight has is a fight where you take a lot of damage, and you can take a lot of damage, but it's also very risky because you can end up dying. Like I end up dying on this pool because I play like a dumbass. So you see these purple pools on the ground. These tick for quite a lot of damage, but your healers also output an insane amount of damage, especially your priest because of the damage amp. So usually your healers will be able to offset this. Of course, you need to think about your own raid's capability, how much healing output you have. I wouldn't recommend you sit in like tank pools like I do here. I shouldn't have done this. If you're rage capped, there's no point in you sitting in a pool and just taking unnecessary damage. But if you notice you're at like 20 rage, you can walk into a pool until you're about 80, pop sweep, cap your rage out a little bit, and then you can press slam on cooldown. Because pressing overpower when you have sweep up is so bad when you can slam sweep. Yeah, you'll see I end up dying here because I'm low HP walking out of a pool. And these crystals do an insane amount of damage. And it was hiding inside of the mob, so I walk in to stack up, and I end up dying. It ends up overkilling me by about like 12k damage, and that would not have happened if I was not soaking pools. So it's really important to track the crystals. Make sure the crystals are, or make sure you don't walk into them, especially if you're low HP. And yeah, play Berserker stance if you're taking damage. Play Berserker stance when... Swap into Berserker stance when this explosion happens and you're going to cap your rage. That's pretty much it. That's this fight. Alright, second boss, Gara'jal. This guy... Oh, sorry, no, Feng. Feng is his name, not Gara'jal. There isn't really much to talk about in this boss. He's sort of a patchwork type of fight. And due to the fact that he's pretty much a patchwork fight, you end up running Bull Rush, Unending Rage, and Heroic Leap as your glyphs. In a perfect world, you would also want to run Dragon Roar instead of Bladestorm, but the ads that spawn during the dark phase may have to be AoE down, depending on your raid. And you as a warrior, it's probably going to be your job to AoE down if they really need to die, if that makes sense. So it's going to really vary on your raid if you can play Dragon Roar or not, if you have to play Bladestorm or not. But those ads don't count to logs, so in a perfect world, you would instead run Dragon Roar and you just go for pure single target damage. The only big thing to know in this fight, due to the fact that he is a single target fight and a patchwork fight, is swapping into Berserker stance when you're going to take damage. So whenever the boss is costing Arcane Velocity and your raid probably is going to cost Reversal, making you not taking any damage, you can walk out of this shield if you notice you're low on rage. Let's see if I do it here. I don't do it here, but you can go into Berserker stance, walk out of the shield, and get some extra rage. And there's no way you ever die. And if you ever risk of dying, you can of course pop a enrage regeneration and save yourself. There's that, and then there's also lightning bolts. I think the mechanic is called. So yeah, lightning fists here. You're gonna have to react super fast to capitalize on the damage here. But you want to sit in Berserker battle stance, and right as he casts the lightning bolts or lightning shield, let's see if he does it. Nah, that's too early. Here, just there. So you'll see right as he casts lightning fist, or whatever it's called. You go quickly into Berserker stance, as you see here, and you get extra rage from the damage taken. You can throw a heroic strike at this point. And then you go right before the swing, you go back into battle stance, and you still get the full rage from the swing, while getting also the rage from the damage taken. Alright, Gara'jal, or we're actually at Gara'jal now. On this fight, you want to play Unending Rage, Bull Rush, and Rude Interruption as your third glyph. This is due to the fact that you can interrupt the ads in the other realm before you cast your Bladestorm, and you can interrupt right before going out as well, so you will gain a lot of uptime from the 6% damage that Rude Interruption provides. Otherwise, you'll be running maybe Leap Glyph, which is just kind of a bad glyph. It doesn't really provide that much value. You also want to play Bladestorm on this fight, or it depends actually. If you're not going downstairs, and if you're only attacking the boss, then playing Dragon Roar is better, but you're probably gonna wanna go downstairs, and you're probably gonna be assigned to a team to go downstairs. So make sure you know what team you're assigned to, what totem you're going down on, and yeah, that's honestly all there is to this fight. I think the note though is don't pop Bladestorm on pull, because what you'll see here is on this specific pull, I end up not getting a closer smash reset on my opener, so I say, oh fuck it, let me send a Bladestorm here. But that ends up completely fucking me over, because when I go downstairs, I'm first team to go down, so we go down on this totem. And I cannot send Bladestorm instantly, and it's kind of bad, so I end up having to sit here. Actually, oh no, this split was fine, but there was the one after that I delayed. I sent my Bladestorm a little bit later, and it completely fucked me over. So I would not send Bladestorm if you're like outside of this realm right here. But yeah, the most important thing in this fight is just quickly identifying when you go downstairs. Alright, where are the most ads that I can go in on? You then go on top of them. You do you thunderclap to make sure you get deep wounds on all of them first. You then interrupt, and then you send Bladestorm along with all your other cooldowns. Also send a battle shot here. I don't, because I'm fucking bad, but yeah, always pair a battle shot with your Bladestorms. And then once you can't cleave anymore, so for example, at this point now I realize I can't really cleave anymore. I mean, I should go out now. I don't know why I'm staying down. Yeah, it took me a while to go out there, but once you're unable to cleave mobs and you can't apply deep wounds to a stack of mobs, just go out. Literally all there is to this fight. That's pretty much it. Alright, Spirit Kings. My favorite fight of Mogu'shan Vaults, and the fight I think where you can really shine, as it were, if you know how to play your class properly. This is probably the fight where people are going to want the most tips on, and honestly, it's the one where I can give the least amount of tips on, because this fight really just requires you to be able to play your class fully automatically, because there's so much different shit going on that you really can't focus on focusing on your rotation, if that makes sense. You need to know how to play your class and when to press what, so you can actually focus on what's going on. If you, like, I mess up a lot of globals in this fight, and honestly, that's fine, because there is so much other shit going on that is more worth focusing on than making sure I press the absolute right global every single time. Anyways, let's go into the glyphs. On this fight, you want to play Rude Interruption, Bull Rush, and Sweep Glyph. Assuming you're stacking them, of course. If you're not stacking the bosses, I mean, what are you doing? Then I guess you'd play Unending Rage, but yeah, these are the three glyphs you want to play. The two things I can say for this fight, actually no, there's three things that I think are important for this fight that applies to every single raid. The first thing is, I think popping Recon Pull and not saving it for the first stack is worth it. I don't know why, but it feels way better, and it's maybe it's just complete nonsense, but it seems way better, because this way you pop all your cooldowns on pull when your trinket procs, and then you pop your 1 minute on cooldown until your second recklessness come up, and then you wait for your second recklessness and all your other cooldowns, and you wait for an overlap, and then you send all your cooldowns again. The second important thing to note in this fight is rage management, and rage management while mobs are stacked and you're sweeping. It's when you're most likely to fuck up your rage, so the best way to avoid this is right when a mob stacks, send Bladestorm and send a battle shout. And then this was going to be your highest damage output up until the point when mobs drop below 20%. So now he drops 20%, I'll cancel all my Bladestorm, I already did. I apply Colossal Smash, and I'll start executing. Right after you first execute, you'll have enough rage to benefit from a full charge, so you send a charge. You should execute again. Apply sweep. Shield is coming up. You stop damaging. If you head into this, you're a fucking clown. And yeah, and when the sleight of hand comes up, never head into this. It's never worth it. Don't trust that people are gonna instantly stun it. They physically can't instantly stun it. So if you send your sweep damage into the mob right as the debuff goes up, you're likely to get the debuff, and 50% damage for 30 seconds. It's just over. Yeah. your kill is over. You're not gonna do any good damage on that kill. It's impossible. Doesn't matter. So just walk away. And while you see when you see the sun is up, you can go back in. That right there, that you saw right there, that leads me to the third thing to mention on this boss. I don't think you should ever use movement cooldowns on this fight for damage. Or well, you will, but it's purely to get around the walls, and it's so you can maximize your damage. I think using leap as a damage thing, pure damage on the boss, is really, really bad, and it's not something you should do. This ended up being a rank 1, I believe. But I could have probably output 5 or... I don't know how much more, but I could have output a lot more damage and had a lot more uptime if I didn't send my rocket boots and if I didn't send my leap like an absolute clown. Let's see if I can find when the wall shows up. Here I found that. Here I end up using leap very badly. As you see, I could have just kept walking and then used leap to get around here, or I could have walked left to side around. Anyways, I lose a bunch of uptime here because I have to run around. And then I believe there's a second time where actually I end up dying to the other boss that spawns, which is unfortunate. But yeah, here I leap. This leap is just horrible. Now I have to run around like this. I intervene this guy. 1, 2. I just lose like 4 or 5 seconds of uptime just because I wanted to leap for damage. Well, I don't know. I gained maybe like 100k damage from the leap, but I lost about probably 1 million damage from the lost uptime. There's actually a fourth thing I just thought about now, or I mean, I knew about it, but I just forgot to mention it, and that is making sure you keep deep wounds on as many targets as possible. Whenever a new ad comes in, make sure you thunderclap or more strike the new mob that's coming in to apply deep wounds, and maintain that deep wounds on both targets. What you can also do is you can deep wounds these undying shadows. You see these shadows here? If I was smart, I would walk out here and I would press deep wounds to make sure I hit that one too, and that might be an extra 600k damage for the cost of 10 rage, which is an insane amount of value. But yeah, just make sure you keep deep wounds on as many targets as possible in this fight, or well, any fight. But yeah, just to reiterate, make sure that you're sending your first recon pull, then send your 1 minute on cooldown up until your second recklessness comes up, or yeah, your 3 minutes comes up again. And then save all your cooldowns with your second rec up until you get a good overlap on both bosses. Make sure that you're sending Bladestorm instantly when the mobs stack up. Once the mobs drop below 20%, or one of the bosses drop below 20%, you cancel your Bladestorm, you send a Close Smash, and then you start executing. And third thing is just save your movement cooldowns for when you actually need to use them. Don't use them aggressively for damage or yeah, stuff like that, and if you follow those 3 things, I think you can output a lot of damage. You just need to make sure that you play well. Alright, second to last boss, Elegon. The boss where you can have fun or not have fun, depending on if the game is cancer or not. Oh well, let's get into it. On this fight, I'm going to play Glyph of Bull Rush, Glyph of Unending Rage, and Glyph of Restoring Power, as you'll be pressing Thunderclap very, very often, and you'll only be able to press it once every 15 seconds, so it doing more damage is just a positive. It's way better than anything else. When it comes to damage cooldowns in this fight, the best way to do it is you send your rec and all your cooldowns on pull, and then you send your second usage of rec for execute at 20%. You want to play Bladestorm in this fight, obviously. You have a lot of targets. And this first ad, you want to apply deep wounds to it with Thunderclap, Bladestorm with Sweep, and Battle Shout during your Bladestorm, of course, like you always do. So the important part about Elegon that is going to be tricky and hard to consistently pull off, and really is just the most important part of this fight, is making sure you apply deep wounds to all the small ads that spawn here. These energy charges all have to reach their certain pillar, and you're probably going to be assigned to kill one of them. But right as they spawn, if you jump in the middle and press Thunderclap, you can hit all of them and apply deep wounds to all of them. If you miss a deep wounds on all of these, you could lose approximately 10k DPS on your final kill. Like, it's an insane amount of damage that you lose. So if you have to lose maybe one global because the energy charge or draw power is just about to go off, I would wait. But however, this is very, very, very important. For whatever reason, the game is absolutely dog shit. The energy charges can spawn inconsistently, so they can spawn and instantly move. In this scenario here, they stood still for about 1.5 seconds and then started moving, but they can spawn and instantly be moving. At first, when I was practicing this fight on PTR, I was like, okay, since they instantly can move, sending Thunderclap instantly is good. But what can happen is that if you send Thunderclap instantly as they spawn, your Thunderclap can hit all of them, deal damage to all of them, but your deep wounds won't get applied. So it's very important to wait about, like, recognize that they've spawned, then press Thunderclap. And if the ads for whatever reason start moving instantly and you weren't able to hit them all, it is what it is, right? But it's much better than consistently not applying deep wounds to half the mobs, because the game is dog shit. Like, there's just nothing you can do. The second most important thing on Elegon is making sure you maintain uptime as much as possible. This comes in the form on this fight as using your defensives well, so you can stay in when you have high stacks. So I believe this is the first draw power. On this one, I usually always send shield wall and then enrage regeneration to make sure I live. Then on the second ad wave, I will run out with rocket boots, leap, and charge back to the boss. I should run out at this point. Yeah, I rocket boots, run out, and I leap back in, get back on the boss. Next wave, you'll be low stack, so you won't need anything. Then the wave after this, I'll send die by the sword. And then usually this next wave, we let hit anyways. So you only need to go and reset once. You'll only kill about 4 or 5 ad waves. So you'll only need to reset your stacks once if you play your defensives properly. Another small trick on this fight I think is very valuable is actually sweeping strikes. That's not something this kill I ended up beating rank 1 by about 10k DPS, but I barely utilize sweeping strikes well up until the end. So what you can do is, I should up sweeper, yeah I do. You do your thing, you jump, thunderclap, hit all the ads, then you walk out to the ad that you're assigned to, and you hit off the boss up until you charge. This is only possible on the first few charge spawns, since they will eventually start moving too fast where you can't actively sweep them down, but it's something they should look to do as well, and I need to personally get much better at in the upcoming weeks. As you see here, I'm absolutely cranking these charges. Alright, final boss of Mogu'shan Vaults, Will of the Emperor. On this fight, you want to play Glyph of Bull Rush, Glyph of Unending Rage, and the most important glyph on this fight is Glyph of Enraged Speed. That glyph is going to save you so much when you are doing the dance on the boss. And if you play without it, it's going to be very, very rough. You might be tempted to go Glyph of Leap instead, but I would say Glyph of Enraged Speed is much, much, much better. Cooldown usage in this fight varies a little bit depending on if you stack the bosses or not, but it only really drastically changes if you do stack the bosses. The cooldown usage doesn't shift in any way. You play it sort of like you would play your cooldowns on Feng or on Gara'jal, where you send them instantly and then you try to send your last one on execute. That's how you play it if you just hit the boss normally. But if you stack the bosses, you want to send your rec and all your cooldowns whenever the bosses are actually stacked. Ideally with Bladestorm or with execute if the bosses are in execute range, of course. This is the only fight where you actually want to play permanently in Berserker stance, and that's because the gas that you take damage from takes for a shit ton, and you take damage during the whole entire fight. Alright, let's get into the boss. If you're not stacking the bosses, which I assume you're not going to be, that's going to be the majority of kills, this is the point where you want to send your cooldowns. Instantly, when the boss spawns, you want to send your cooldowns. And this is just due to the fact that your 1 minute ICD trinkets, aka your DMF trinket, or your alchemy and your will trinket, will at this point still be active. As you can see here, it's 6 seconds active. If you're, however, stacking the bosses, it's much better to wait up until the bosses stack here at the beginning. And yeah, send your cooldowns along with a Bladestorm. So you Bladestorm, Battle Shout. Oh, I don't have it at this point. Also Smash. I mean, yeah, you get the drill. And then make sure you refresh Deep Wounds before the mob spread out with either a Thunderclap or a Mortal Strike to get full Deep Wounds active uptime. The dance on Will is actually relatively simple if you just follow the right steps. make sure that you're always in this outer circle around the mob. And if you opposite of where it's slashing, and if you do that, you'll ensure you'll never ever get hit. Never ever use heroic leap or rocket boots unless you absolutely have to. If you reacted slowly, or if you had to run out from a stomp and then the slash is coming towards your direction. If you just follow that thought process, you should never get hit by any of these slashes. Even if you don't have a rage up and have the bonus move speed. Here, for example, when these stomps happen, this is a perfect time to use the... If you are Symbiosis by a Druid, use the Symbiosis Roar to run back in. I had to charge at this point, so it's fine for me, but you want to think about your Symbiosis not just as a personal thing, but as a thing for your whole raid, because when stomps happen and a slash happens in a direction, if that person that is standing in that direction where the slash is happening, if they don't have a movement cooldown like Rocket Boots or whatever your class have, or your class has, if they don't have anything, there's no way they get back in time and dodge the slash, and then they lose 1,000,000 damage, which is gonna benefit you, right? Because the boss dies faster and you do more damage because the kill time is faster. But yeah, to reiterate this fight, make sure you dodge these slashes, play safe. Inside or close to smash, press slam. Heroic strike a lot when you cap your rage. Use your cooldowns, movement cooldowns well. And yeah, there's not much more to this fight, honestly. It's quite simple. I think Elegon and I think Spirit Kings is 10 times harder than this fight if you just manage to dance properly. Well, that's it. That's the raid. There's not much more for me to say. I was while editing this and watching it back, I realized now that I had just woken up when I started recording this video, and I kept recording. I took a break and I started recording later in the day, and my voice sounded so different, which is kind of funny. I guess I should think about that in future. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please drop a like, or drop a follow on my Twitch if you want to watch me live. I have a Discord where I answer questions quite regularly. I try to keep that up to date as much as possible. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Take care.